Welcome back to Studio K. We just heard a lovely performance from the group Laamar. I'm sitting here with Joffrey, the lead singer of Jamar. How you feeling after that? Of Laamar, excuse me.
We're Jamar now.
Yeah, Jamar. Got jumbled. How you feeling after that performance?
Good. This was our first band in studio performance, and I only played one questionable chord in the band. They're professionals, so they did great.
I didn't hear it.
Yeah. It was a soft
one. Okay. Great. Awesome. Well, first things first, can you introduce the members of your band and what they play?
Steve Bossmans is sitting close to me, so I'll start there. He plays guitar, all those tasty lead guitar licks, and sometimes sings a little bit in the background. We're pulling that out. James Taylor, our drummer and manager, and my bestie, he's sitting over there. And Jason Wells playing bass. He's on electric today, but he also plays the double bass or the upright bass.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I play guitar and sing.
Wonderful. All right, well, let's talk about what you played today. Two of those songs were off of your most recent release, Flowers. The first one was Home to My Baby, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Can you tell me a bit about that song and where it comes from?
Yeah, Home to My Baby is kind of in the theme of a lot of the songs in our EP, which are about like racial justice and particularly like issues of police violence.
Yeah.
And that song is kind of more broad and narrative and is sort of speaking to just like the day-to-day experience of, I think, a lot of BIPOC folks and people of color who live with sort of a low level of fear or, just kind of these small experiences, interactions with law enforcement that can escalate unexpectedly. So it's kind of just talking about the experience of, an average person going about their day-to-day life, but, just kind of living with this low level of anxiety of like what could happen if things go the wrong way.
Sure.
Where some of the other songs are like more specific, but
okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of disarming. Sorry to catch up, but
no, that's
it's meant to be a little bit like I've gotten this comment on recently, where it's like on the surface it's kind of very like a very pleasant song and easy to listen to, and then upon like deeper listening, folks are like, oh, I didn't like realize what this song was about, and I feel a little awkward that I was like just bopping my head along to it.
Right. Interesting. And do you do that on purpose? That juxtaposition there?
I think it's just in my nature. I mean, yeah, I don't set out to do that. It just sort of, I think maybe I set out to write songs that sound less depressing, and then they turn out to be sad, like the other songs that sound sad.
Yeah. And just tell me about what draws you to folk or to Americana, whatever you want to call it, the kind of music that you play.
Yeah, I think when I started as a songwriter, which was kind of late blooming for songwriters, like in my mid-20s, playing guitar, I didn't want to sing about myself. I hadn't had enough therapy to feel comfortable with that yet. And I felt like drawn to singing and writing and like emotive expression. And I, like we discussed kind of off air, I studied American studies in addition to music and particularly like Black history and literature. And so I sort of started my songwriting endeavor by like writing about like postbellum and antebellum United States. And that was like a good vessel to sort of like enter into like meaningful content within lyrics while not being too personal.
Yeah.
And I've just kind of continued that like theme, although like making it more and more personal as like my writing has progressed.
Yeah, totally. And you had a group called Just Postbellum.
Yeah.
And so that the lyrical content in that, what were you writing about in that?
Yeah, it was really, you could call it like historical fiction or something like that, but it was really rooted in that like antebellum and postbellum time in the United States, and pulling sometimes like on more accurately historical things and sometimes just more broadly like exploring those themes.
Cool.
But there was so much there to write about, so it was like a very rich kind of like place to start.
I bet. Cool. All right. Well, back to your set list for today. The second one that you played was Say My Name. That's also off of Flowers. Yeah. Would you say that fits into the theme that we were discussing earlier?
Yeah, I wrote Say My Name, in the days after Philando Castile was killed. And that was the first song that I wrote when I moved back to Minneapolis from New York. And so, writing that, I was just feeling very like shaken a bit by moving back to the city and thinking I was, kind of like returning to my bucolic hometown. And this incident happened. And so, I was inspired to write that song, and it was kind of the catalyst to start squirreling away some songs. And, unfortunately, we've had further incidents to continue kind of, providing material to think about. But that song came, right after the murder of Philando Castile. And,
So how long has the Flowers EP been in the works then?
That's a good question. Like I've been sitting on the songs for some of them for a few years, obviously.
Like
Some
recorded and all, or just the
no,
ideas?
just like in a
Okay.
notebook,
I see. Yeah.
I think I played. James was probably there. I think I played like one show in this loft in maybe 2017, and
Yeah.
then I didn't perform again until 2022 maybe. But it didn't really take shape until probably like late 2021 and into 2022, when I like realized I did have the desire to be a singer-songwriter band leader again.
Yeah. Cool. And so what called you back to that?
I don't, that's a good, I mean, I think really the abundance of like social justice issues happening in our city and in the country. I was writing songs all along and just was realizing I felt compelled to like contribute to the conversation in a way that felt authentic to me.
Yeah.
And also, and music has always kind of been my way in that. And then also I just had enough time away and I felt like the desire come back, and like I'd been in the city for a few years then, and I was just like ready to make that endeavor again.
Totally. Yeah. That's great. And then, so the third song, My Lover, My Man, that's a new one, right? And is that, are you going to release that sometime soon?
Yeah, this will be, knock on wood, if all goes according to plan. We'll have a record out later this year. And that will be on there. And this is kind of, the theme of the record is a bit of a departure from some of our other like thematic, more focused thematic efforts. So that one's a lot more, I don't know the word, not allegorical, but it is based off something like a story I heard on NPR a couple years ago that I can't remember the details to, but it was really about like two men who were in love, and one of them, this was in probably the 70s or 80s, and one of them was like prepared to like be out, like really out front and forward with it, and the other one hadn't come out, and the one partner sort of not outed the other, but like was very forthright in it and sort of forced his partner to like bring his full self to his family and people, and that story really like stuck with me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was thinking about that when I wrote that.
And you wrote it from the perspective of one of those two people, or was it just kind of about the situation?
Yeah, that's a good, I don't know. I don't like go into songwriting like really thinking specifically about like my voice within the story.
Yeah.
I guess I should think about the tense and maybe come back to you with an answer.
It sounded like,
but it's kind of from the perspective of the one person who's like ready to declare their love more publicly.
Cool. Yeah. Well, tell me about your songwriting process. I feel like for a lot of people it's different each time, but do you most often go to your songs, or do the songs kind of come to you?
Yeah, definitely the latter. I'm like the type, I'm sure there's many, who has like, like hundreds of voice memos of all brilliant song ideas. And then I just pick a few that are going to be great from the list. No. Yeah, I tend to have like a lot of song ideas, which just can be annoying in band practice when we're trying to like move it along. But sometimes it's like kind of the nugget of like the lyrical idea, and then sort of the like basics of, some chord changes.
Yeah.
And then the songs can kind of reveal themselves, and sometimes it's not till I'm like halfway into it then I realize, what am I like singing about? Like I'll kind of sing nonsense like lyrics, or like, free associative kind of like lyric writing, until I really get to the meat of like what's like sticking in the song for me.
Yeah.
And then once it's focused, it's like pretty easy for me to finish it.
Yeah.
Although I'm really bad at writing bridges. As the band knows. I don't understand bridges because I also don't know how to play guitar. But
you fooled me, man. You sounded great today.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like, again, knock on wood, I'm pretty lucky that I have an abundance of like creative ideas as far as songs go. So I don't really need to like do any practices or exercises. What I really need is like some more structure to like set aside time to finish songs, which I just don't have. But
yeah, okay, sure. And so then with your more social justice centered songs, what are you kind of hoping that your audience takes away from those tunes?
It's been really interesting this year with Home to My Baby, which is like our single, which folks are probably most familiar with. And like I said before, a lot of people have like heard that song at like a surface level, or at a certain, let's say, musical level, and really like enjoyed it. And then later realized like what the song was about as they listened to it more deeply. And I think that maybe wasn't the goal, but that is kind of the function of it now, which I'm okay with, which is that it's an entryway for people. I should give air quotes because I'm talking about probably white people, To be like, oh, like I heard your song, it was so nice, and then I really listened to the lyrics, and yeah, it's really like some people feel the need to like personally not apologize to me, but like, you know, show me some sign of solidarity.
Right.
And then I have to say, like, it's not about me specifically. It's just about like all brown people. But it has been like a good entryway, I think, for folks to like discuss issues of police violence and social and racial injustice, and understand that like it can be a conversation, it can be in music. It doesn't have to be divisive or like contentious.
Totally.
And it also doesn't have to be, you know, like everyone's comfortable in different types of political action. And so like it works for me and it works for some other people.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that it's resonating in that way. I think it's ultimately good timing. Like the song came out at a good time, not a good time in the larger picture, but for us.
Right. Yeah. That's great. You draw them in with the musicality, and they have to ponder the words. Yeah,
exactly. I'm always joking at the shows, like it's okay to dance to the songs.
Right. Yeah.
You know what they're about.
That's interesting. Yeah. Totally. Cool. Well, I'm kind of curious about your origins too. I told you I was going to ask you about this, but you come from a musical family. You were telling me that your dad was in a group. Tell me about kind of those formative years.
My dad's a drummer, so I kind of grew up around bands and band practice always happening. So to me that was normal, like going to dad's shows if they weren't too late, and like often helping dad like load in all the drum gear,
nice.
Like late at night or the next day. But I just always was always around music, probably like a lot of folks here. And I started playing saxophone in elementary school, and I did that through college. And I grew up here in the Twin Cities, and left for college and went out to New York for college and said, I'm never moving back to Minnesota. Like the East Coast has it all.
Especially if you're studying jazz out there too.
Studying jazz, playing saxophone, and then I graduated, and I was like, I actually don't want to be a jazz saxophone player, as it turns out. But I started studying music therapy, actually. Not that people care to know that, but that's when I started learning guitar, kind of in my mid-20s, because I needed to play guitar in addition to piano. And after a couple like years of studying that in grad school, I realized I enjoyed playing guitar more than I did the grad school part of it, and so I just kept going with the band and stopped going to grad school.
Nice.
But I had a band out in New York for some years, and finally decided in 2016 to move back home.
Cool. After
14 years, and then the rest is kind of here. But it's fun to be back. My dad still plays, and
do you play with him ever? Or have
people
you?
always ask. Yeah, like we don't have a regular practice of doing it. Probably my fault, because I think he would definitely be into it, and I would too. But we don't have a good like shared language of collaboration yet. We need to develop that.
Do you play the same kind of music?
My dad, growing up, he had a soul band, so they practiced in the basement. It was called Box of Soul, and it was like an 8-piece soul band.
Nice.
And so once I was like decent enough at saxophone, they let me like come in and play in the horn section a little bit at some of the gigs. So that was very cool. They had a blues band before that.
Cool. That's awesome.
Most recently a rock band.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you still do saxophone stuff, right? I've seen like the looping saxophone stuff that you do. Like I saw some really, really cool like Pharoah Sanders-esque stuff on your Instagram that you're posting. Do you still do those kind of shows?
Not too often. I play the saxophone on our EP, and I probably will on this one. But right before Laamar got started, I was like doing the saxophone thing. I was like, I'm going to play saxophone again. Like, I guess I was just feeling like playing music. But I got my loop pedal out. I had done a looping saxophone project as part of my like senior project.
Cool.
And then never revisited it. But I got my loop pedal out and I got going, and next thing you know, it was like Loop City down in my basement. And I started playing shows, and I don't know why, but it was like good timing, and people thought that was very awesome. So I started doing that, and then like 6 months later, I also really wanted to start writing and performing songs again, like singing. And so then the saxophone kind of is playing second fiddle again. But I play every now and then. I'm not super polished. I'm really like more about improvisation and apparently looping.
Right. Yeah. Does the saxophone have a place in this project in Laamar, or would you not break it out?
It has. For years people were like, "Are you ever going to play? Like, would you ever play sax on your show?" And I thought that was like the most ridiculous idea. But I have actually done it at least at one of our shows, and I've been thinking about doing it again. Like, I'm probably better at saxophone than guitar. It'd be interesting to like facilitate playing some sax at the show, but probably better to bring in like a real professional. But it's kind of fun to play. I played with Duran Jones last year, And I didn't realize it until his show was happening that he plays saxophone. And so he like busted out a sax
wow.
in the middle of his set. And he had like a 3-song set where he played saxophone. And I was like, okay, I see that. I could do that.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
So maybe in 2024 here,
that's great.
we'll find some way.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Well, so at this point in your career, you have an EP out for Laamar. You got a big show coming up next Friday. Do you want to talk about that? I'll give you a moment to talk about that right now if you want to.
Sure, yeah. Best New Bands, First Ave in the main room. We were blessed to have been nominated along with 6 other bands.
Yeah.
And so we're doing that next Friday, the 12th. And I've never played my own music on the main room stage. I've played saxophone actually in the main room stage.
Oh, cool. Nice.
It will be a first for me. I don't know about the rest of the guys. James has played drums, and one of the Steve, I'm sure Steve has played at the XL Energy Center, just so the record can state that. So we're like small potatoes. Jason plays with the Iowa Symphony, so Des Moines Symphony, so he's also like small potatoes. Me being the potato.
Right.
But I'm very excited and not too nervous yet, but I probably will be very nervous in a week. Yeah.
Well, you sounded great today. Like I was saying, you guys sound very polished, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so my question was going to be, how are you feeling at this time in your career? It seems like you're in a kind of a sweet spot right now. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, it's been interesting reflecting on that as the year winds down, like 2023. I feel like James is the one that expected this to go exactly how it's going, but I was like, I don't know, maybe we'll play like a show and no one will ever ask us to play again. And instead it's been like getting booked for lots of shows and like unique opportunities. So I'm not a pessimist at all actually, but I'm also like very grounded and humble. I have 2 young kids and I don't think anything crazy is going to happen because I'm not going to like go on the road unless Drake calls, and needs like a really emo Black Americana opener. But so I don't know, like what will happen this year? Like play more great shows. Like it's been really fun to finally feel like a part of the Minneapolis music community. So I hope that continues and we get some more good opportunities. Like really random things happening. I'm opening for Dan Wilson of Semisonic for like 2 nights in February.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm like, how did that happen? I'm not sure.
Totally.
But I think just more of the same, like some regional festivals and like fun parties, Art World and stuff. That would be really cool. So I think that's the ambition. And maybe 2025, when you invite us back, like we'll be on an international tour and we'll have to say no.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, hopefully. Let's hope so. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So in the near future, what's next for you? So you have the show on Friday. You have lots of shows in February, it sounds like.
Yeah. Cactus Blossoms residency the end of January, 22nd of January.
Cool.
Yeah, some shows through February. I don't know if I should list them all because it's kind of a handful, but
okay, yeah. And then the new project is estimated for when?
I think the goal is to have a single out in the spring.
Okay, cool.
To take that at whatever the spring is, because it's Minnesota, which is good for us because it could be July, and then hopefully the record will be out in the fall, which the fall this year lasted until December. So
right,
yeah, we'll have a new record out in 2024. That is the goal.
Awesome.
Yeah. But single in the spring, I think. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. All right. Well, we've come to the last question. I prepped you for this one. Nice. I hope you've been thinking about it. I want you to build a dream bill for yourself. You get 3 acts along with Laamar, which will be performing.
Okay.
Who are your 3 acts?
Okay. I'm thinking, like we talked about, Donny Hathaway. Mm-hmm. I'm almost thinking like a show where we're all on stage, kind of like, it's like Songwriter in the Rounds, except it's a lot more fun because it's like Donny Hathaway, Bob Dylan, like seated like next to each other, so that'll be really awkward. And then like more contemporary artists, maybe who would round up my 3rd bill? I was talking about Cat Power recently, and Cat Power like performed the whole like Dylan record recently, or not recently, but they've been like reissuing it or something. I was always like intrigued by Cat Power's like struggles with performing live at certain points in her career, but also I feel like that's so authentic.
Yeah.
So that'll be my 3rd choice.
Awesome.
And I'll be right there in the middle, just chopping it up.
Who's headlining that? Oh, I guess you're saying everyone's on the stage.
Yeah. A night with Laamar, obviously featuring some local artists you may have heard of, like Donny Hathaway, Bob Dylan, and Cat Power.
That's wonderful, man.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. Awesome. All right. Well, any last words for our Radio K audience before we part?
My only words are to find Laamar with Laamar on Instagram, because that's really the only social media that I currently use.
Yeah.
And come see shows. We'll have fun.
Yeah, totally. got a big one next Friday.
Yeah.
At First Avenue. Cool. Yeah, Radio K is sponsoring that one too.
I know.
So
I love it.
We'll be there. We'll be there with you.
I've got like 7 Radio K stickers in my backpack. I'm going to confess right now.
As we all should.
Yeah.
Everyone should have that many, if not more. All right, cool. We're going to kick it back to the booth for some more local music until 5 p.m. This has been Laamar. Thank you for tuning in. Radio K, Real College Radio.